guys, this is day 30. This is your final day of non-traditional instruction. So I'm going to go over the math with you real quick. And you'll notice it's just the same as what you did yesterday. We're just using some different numbers, but our models are the same. We're still working with tenths and 100ths. And let's review. So looking at our decimal place value, here's our decimal. In the first place to the right is tenths. So we'll just put a 1 there just for the sake of whatever. And then the second place to the right of the decimal is our hundredths, and we'll put a 2. So now that number, 0.12, is 12 hundredths. And in fraction form, that would look like this. Try and write this as best I can. Okay. So 0.12 equals 12 100ths. And you can see that because we have a 1 in the tenths and a 2 in the hundredths. So this would be 12 hundredths. And another way to think about that is, if this were money, that would be 12 cents. Well, you would need 100 cents to equal $1, right? Okay? Plus, the 1 represents 10 cents, or a dime, or tenths. And then the 2 represents 2 cents, or maybe 2 pennies, 2 hundredths. Okay? Just another way to think about it. So, today, you're working with the same model that you worked with yesterday. So, we're multiplying by 10. So 4 times 10, I'm going to let you solve that. And we know 10 times 10 equals 100. So here's our 4 tenths over here, right? Now, remember, 1/10 is equivalent to 10 hundredths, right? Because if we think of place value blocks, you know, a rod is 10. And then these are ones. We need 10 ones to equal 1 rod. Okay, so everything goes back to tens, okay? So think about how many of these hundredths are you going to have to shade in to show an equivalent to 4 tenths, okay? Now over here, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. 100 divided by 10 is 10. Now, we're dividing because we're converting smaller units to larger units, okay? We're going from hundredths to tenths. Well, what I want you to do is I want you to shade in 60 hundredths. And then think about how many of these you would need to shade in to show an equivalent amount, okay? So finish your number sentence up here, and it kind of helped you out with that. And then shade in to show equivalent or equal amounts, okay? All right? Down here, you're doing the same thing you did yesterday. Just remember, do yourself a little favor. Put your decimal point right there. And then it makes it super easy to figure out which is our tenths and which is our hundredths. And then decimal form, well, guys, this is already in decimal form right here because we just added that little decimal. We're going to do the same thing for this one right here. Okay. So, you know what? For the sake of it, we're just going to go ahead and write it in on that one. We'll write it in on this one. Okay? And then all you have to do is fill in these blanks and then put in the fraction form. Okay? You guys can do that. And then down here, I want you to pay attention to this number bond. So they took 14 hundredths, okay? And they just decomposed it. The 1 is 1/10, and the 4 is 4 hundredths. Those lines don't match up, but that's what they meant to do there. 1/10, 4 hundredths. They just decomposed it, okay? So if we added these together like that, we would know this is 14 hundredths. Okay. So circle the hundredths to compose as many tenths. Now remember, you need 10 hundredths to make a tenth. And these are all hundredths because you have a 1 2 places to the right of that decimal. All right, so circle them. And really, you want to circle so that you get this amount over here. You want 14 hundredths, okay? And remember, 10 hundredths equals 1/10, All right, so that's today's decimal work. The fraction work is just the same as yesterday's. We got a different model. It's decomposed differently with different fractions. I went ahead and did a little of the work for you to get you rolling. We can see that originally, before this dotted line was put in there, we had fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they shaded in 2, so we know we started with 2 fifths. Then they decomposed it again by making that horizontal line, and then we have 4 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that tells us that 2 fifths and 4 tenths are equal. They're equivalent. And then over here, with all this super complicated looking stuff, really all we did again was we just decomposed, right? All we did was decompose. So we took our 2 fifths, and if you break 2 fifths apart into separate fifths, what fifth plus what fifth equals 2 fifths? Then you can see, here's your 4 tenths. I'm just going to go ahead and draw some lines here. They decomposed 4 tenths, right? That's all they did. They just broke it apart. And basically, you remember expanded form? You remember expanded form in just basic place value? So like if we had the number, I'm going to go down here and do this, 345. Expanded form is 300 plus 40 plus 5. They're just decomposing, okay? They're just breaking it apart into smaller units, but it's still 345. It's just been decomposed. That's all they did here. This is, and this is something I'm just realizing, this is basically expanded form of a fraction. Okay, so just think about it like that, all right? And then so we had our addition sentence, our repeated addition sentence, and then they're turning that, here's our 4 tenths again. Okay, it just looks different, but it's still 4 tenths. And now they're turning that repeated addition number sentence into a multiplication sentence, right? So 2 times what plus 2 times what equals, and I'm going to help you out. You want this multiplication sentence to have a product of 4 tenths. And then down here, same thing. You went from 2 fifths to 4 tenths. Okay? And this number sentence up here and this one are going to help you fill this in. I'm not going to do anything for you. I'm going to let you work with it, okay? All right, guys. I hope what I said was helpful. Try your best. Call me, text me, message me if you need anything. I'm here for you. Love you guys. Bye.